Okay, so this is our next video in our continuation of our AWS series. So in this video, we will cover AWS VPC flow logs, and we will see the demo of the VPC flow logs. So let's see what is VPC flow logs. Just a second. Yeah. So flow logs. So if you just read the keyword flow logs, so flow logs means like there should be some logs, right? And flow means like if something is like entering into our network and something is going outside from our network, so those kind of logs will be logged somewhere, so that is called as a VPC flow logs. Okay, so flow logs is a feature which you can enable to capture the information about the IP traffic to and from network instances in your VPC. So by default, flow logs are not enabled. So if you want, so let's suppose if you create some EC2 instances or you create VPC, you create subnet. So you want to debug some issues, or you want to check who all are entering into my VPC, who all are trying to even access my VPC. So how you are going to check? So there we have one option, that is the flow logs. So we can enable that flow logs. Right. So through which we can check the to and from, like who is coming and who is like from where the data is traveling. So a flow log. So log is a type of a data only. So it's a type of a data only which represents a network of a log. Like, so this is basically used when we want to diagnose anything within the network. So let's suppose you have one EC2 in one subnet and one RDS in another like in some subnet, and you are trying to connect one EC2 with the RDS, but it is not working, it is not connecting. So how you are going to check, like, and you check everything, security groups and everything, it still is not, like, we are getting the timeout issue. Then what is the first action you have to do? So first action is you have to check the flow logs. So you can enable the flow logs, you can check, okay, I am sending the transaction, so where the transaction is going and why it is being rejected, right? What is the rejection code? So these are the very like useful option. So we can monitor the traffic, right? Like who is reaching to our instance. We can determine the direction of the traffic. Like I said, like if we are getting timeout, if we are getting timeout, then where it is going, because it is not going to the destination required direction, then where it is going, we can diagnose the issue, right? Okay, so what all the things we can create a flow log. So we can create a flow log on the VPC level, on the subnet level, on the interface level. So let's suppose there is a VPC. So let me show you the diagram. So this is the official documentation. So yeah, so we have the Amazon, like, let me zoom it. 1 minute. Yeah, so we have the Amazon Web Service, that is a cloud, and within the cloud we have the region, and within the region we have the VPC, right? So, and within the VPC we have the availability zone, and within the availability zone we can have the private subnet and we can have the public subnet. But here both have the private subnet. It's up to us, like which, whether we want to create the private subnet or whether we want to create the public subnet. So let's, and within the VPC there could be so many resources, like so many subnet and so many EC2 instances. So we can create the flow logs on the VPC level itself. So we can create a flow log on the VPC level itself. So if we enable the flow logs on the VPC level, which means whatever the subnet, whatever the resources like exist inside the VPC, for all of the resources, the flow logs will be automatically enabled. For the subnet, so let's suppose if you enable the logs on the subnet level, then, so let me show you this diagram. So let's suppose there is a subnet. So now you enable this VPC log. So you see this blue icon, flow log. So you enable this flow log on the subnet level. So there are two subnet, but this is a one subnet, this is the second subnet. Now you enable the log on the subnet level. Now within those subnet, whatever, like there is one subnet only, like private subnet and the private subnet. There is one subnet, but within one subnet there are multiple EC2 instances. We enable the flow logs on the subnet level. So by default, it get enabled for all the resources which exist within that subnet. Basically for all the network interfaces, right? So And the third is we can enable for the particular network interface. So as an example, so in this diagram, we enable the logs on the subnet level, right? Because within the subnet, there are two instances. So by if we enable the flow log on the subnet level, then the by default, it get enabled on all the EC2 instances which exist within the subnet, right? So here you could see we have enable the flow log for the instance level, or you can say the network interface. Like for every EC2 instance, there is a one network interface, so it's on the network interface level. So if we enable our flow logs, so flow log for the particular instance or the for the particular network interface, then it is not by default enabled for the another EC2 instance. All right. So we can enable the flow logs on the VPC level, on the subnet level, on the network interface level. Okay, so we can enable. So we will see how we are going to enable. We are going to see just in a few minutes. Right? But okay, once the logs are getting created, so where we can store the logs? So we can store the logs on these locations. One is the CloudWatch. So we can create a CloudWatch log group. Within the log group, so the log stream will be created, and within the log stream, we can see the logs. We can store the logs in the S3. So if the logs can be stored in the S3, we can read using the Athena, or even we can read manually. We can store within the Amazon Kinesis data firehouse. So these are the three only option which is available currently, where we can configure the VPC flow logs, like where it should go. Okay, so let's try to and one more thing, like, is sending the VPC logs are free? So it looks the sending the VPC logs are not free, because we are storing within the CloudWatch logs. So I went to this Amazon CloudWatch pricing, like we can store on the CloudWatch S3 or like anywhere. So I check on the Amazon CloudWatch pricing, and if I scroll down, so there is a method like I mentioned. So monitoring VPC flow logs delivered to S3, monitoring VPC flow logs delivered to CloudWatch log. So let's suppose if we configured either the CloudWatch or either the S3 or either the Amazon Kinesis data warehouse. So these are three options to monitor the flow logs, and which can be delivered to, which can be stored to either CloudWatch logs or either to the S3 or either to this. So if you click on it, you could see there is a price from zero, even from the 0 to 10 TB, there is a price. From 10 TB to 30 TB, so there is a price. So it looks to me like there is a pricing even for the S3 as well. So there is a price for the S3. There is a less price, 0.25 per GB, and for the CloudWatch log there is a high price. And let's check for the Kinesis data warehouse. For this as well, there is a same price as of S3, 0.25 per GB. So it looks like this is not free to monitor the VPC logs to deliver to the CloudWatch logs. Okay, so let's try to implement this thing. So first we need the AWS cloud. So we have the AWS cloud, which is perfectly fine. Then we need to select the region. Okay, we have selected the region London, so we are going to create in the London region, which is also fine. Well, 1 minute, let me close this. Now we have to create the we need the VPC. So let's search the VPC here. So click on it. So click on the VPC. So we have the one VPC available, which is the default VPC. So you can use the default VPC as well. And if you click on the default VPC, you could see there is a one option, flow logs, right? And if you click on it, you can create the flow logs. But let's create our own VPC, like which could be easy or not easy, so that we can learn even few more things along with the VPC flow logs. So let's create the new VPC. So create a VPC, right? So we have two options. One is to create a VPC only and VPC and more. So if you click on the VPC and more, everything automatically get created, like VPC, subnet, root tables, like internet gateway, net connections. So everything will be automatically get created. But we are not going to follow this approach. We will going step by step. So first is the VPC. So we are creating only VPC. So let's create the name. So this is the my VPC. Okay, now we have to give the cider range. So like for this now, there is a very confusion, what is the cider range? Generally, if someone is the beginner, Then we have the confusion, like what is the cider range, what value I can give here. So this is like very easy. So let me show you. So cider range is of like, even if you see like it is by default is it is mentioned 10.0.0.0 slash 24. Like sometimes you have C 10.0.0.0 slash 16, right? Sometimes you have C 10.0.0.0 slash 8. So what all are these means? What is this 24? What is 16? What is 8? So let's first focus on the, and sometimes you see 0.0.0.0 slash 0, right? So let's first focus on like these first four bits. So these first four bits, it's not bits, it's a bytes. So one bit consists of the 8 bits. So let's suppose there is an IP address 123 point this 12.23.54. Let's suppose, so this is of 8 bytes. This is of, second is of 8 byte. So first is of 8 byte, second is also of 8 byte, third is also of 8 byte, fourth is also of 8 bytes, or you can say bits. So total is 32. So 8 for the 32. So total is 32. So out of 32, we mention here 24, 16, and 8. When we mention 24, so how like, let's suppose if we mention 20 24, so 24 means only last three 8, like only last three 8. So only last three 8 means first 8 is locked. You can't change the first value. You can change only the last three values. So IP address can be 10.1.1.1. IP address can be 10.1.2.1, 2.3. Like only the last three digits can be changed, because you said slash 24. Slash 24 means 8, 8, 8. So last three 8, right? And if you mention 16, so 16 means 8 and 8, 16. So you cannot change first two, like you cannot change first two. So only and only you can change the last two. And if you mention like 8, it means you cannot change first three. First three is locked. Only you can update the last one. So let's suppose if we mention 8, then we can mention 10.10.10.1 to 10.10.10.2 to 254. Right? So only 254 will be there, right? So these are the like sequence. So we have to provide some like a cider range. So which are going to decide how many IPs are available. So we are going to like took this one, 10.0.0.0 slash 24, right? Okay, and leave everything as it is. So let's create a VPC. So our VPC has been created. All right, so our VPC has been created. So what next? Now we have to select the availability zone. Okay, we can select the availability zone. Within the VPC, we have to create a subnet. Okay, so let's create a subnet. So click on the subnet. Right, we have the default subnet exists. So let's create a subnet. And in my VPC, which I just created, my VPC, and let's create a subnet, my subnet. Okay, and the subnet should be in which availability zone? Like we have the availability zone. So we can select EUS 2A in only one availability zone. Now we can select the cider range. So like now, like what cider range? Because we already mentioned cider range by when we created the VPC. When we created the VPC, we already mentioned, okay, we need the IPs of these ranges. Then why it is asking like a cider range for again subnet? Because so let's suppose you want to create two subnet, three subnet, four subnet, five subnet, any number of subnet you want to create. And in that, so for that, like you have to like, basically let's suppose there are 100 IPs available. So how you are going to divide those 100 IPs? So, okay, I said, okay, 30 IP to the first subnet, 30 IP to the other, and the rest 40 will be the other. So the same thing we have to mention. So for the time being, what we can do is we are creating only one subnet. So let's allocate all the IPs to those subnet, because this topic is not related to the networking. This is related to the VPC flow logs, but still we are covering like a couple of things. So let's create the subnet. Now our subnet has been created successfully, right? Now if you, okay, so I said we can enable the flow logs on the VPC level. We can enable the log on the subnet level. We can enable the logs on the network interface level. So let's see, can we enable the log on the VPC level? So let's see. If you click on the my VPC and you see there is a flow logs option, so click on it. And by default, we don't have any flow logs, so we can create a flow logs, which is perfectly fine. So we can create a flow logs, or we can enable a flow logs on the VPC level. So let's see on the subnet level. So click on the subnet. So let's click on the my subnet or any subnet, and we are seeing the flow logs option. So flow logs option. So we can create the flow logs on the subnet level as well. All right. And we can network interface. So let's click on the network interface. So we don't have the network interface right now because we don't have any EC2 instances. So okay, so let's create our flow log on the VPC level first. All right. So this is our VPC, my VPC. Click on the flow logs, which means like we are creating the flow logs on the VPC level, which means anything happening within my VPC, like either on the EC2 or either on the subnet, I need my logs. All right. So click on the create flow logs. So let's give a name. So my VPC logs. All right. And like it needs like few parameters. Like, do you want to send only accept logs? Do you want to send only reject logs? Do you want to send both accept and reject logs? So I want both or all. So it all means not accept reject. There could be like skipped as well. There could be like so many other as well. So we want all. Then maximum aggregation level. A maximum aggregation level, it looks like the maximum interval time during which a flow packet is captured, which means after how many minutes frequency you can say, like it going to like capture. So we can say 1 minute, so that we can like as soon as we create it, we can see the flow logs. Okay, now I told you we can store the flow logs on the CloudWatch, on the S3, on the Kinesis data warehouse. So we could see three options: CloudWatch log, S3, and if we see CloudWatch log, we have to give the CloudWatch log group. If we click on the S3, we have to give the S3 ARN. If we click on the Kinesis warehouse, so we have to give the stream name here as well. All right. So we in this video, like you can store anywhere, CloudWatch, S3, Kinesis, like everything is same. So now you can click on the CloudWatch log. So let's click on the CloudWatch logs. Now to store on the CloudWatch log, the CloudWatch log group should exist. So we don't have any CloudWatch log group. So let's create the CloudWatch log group. So open in a new tab. So click on the log groups. So we don't have a CloudWatch log group. So let's create a log group. VPC logs. All right. So let's create a like and that's it. So let's create it. So this log group will going to store our like VPC logs. So now we are going to refresh it, and now we are able to see in our drop down VPC logs, which is perfectly fine. Now the IAM role, because CloudWatch log is a different service. If any other service, because if EC2 like if because VPC now want to send the logs to the CloudWatch logs, but VPC is a different service, CloudWatch log is a different service. So if we want to access any two services, we need to give the permission. All right. So we need to give a permission. So we need, and how we are going to give the permission? So we can create a role, and within the role, we can attach the policy. Policies mean the permissions, right? So we can create an IAM role. So we don't have the, so we have these IAM role exist. So let's create a new IAM role. So click on the set up permission. All right. And click on the set up permission. So first create a policy. So let's first create a policy. All right. So like for the CloudWatch log, what could be the policy? The policy looks like it should able to put the logs, it should able to get the logs, it should able to read the logs. This kind of policies only, right? So first we need to create a policy, and then we can attach the policy. So if you go to the official documentation, so there is a section here, publish to CloudWatch logs, right? Publish flow logs to the CloudWatch log, and if you scroll down, we have mentioned like this policy given. So IAM policy attached to the IRO. So just copy this policy, and this policy can create log group, create log stream. Because if any log is going to send into the CloudWatch log, so it is going to it has the permission to create a log stream. It should have the permission to put the log events. It should have permission to describe the log groups. So that's why we are giving those permission. So let's click on it. And because we are creating on the VPC level, so all the resources come under the VPC level will be covered. So we are giving the resources star. So let's copy it, and 1 minute. So let's copy it and go to the IAM and create a policy, and create a policy. Go into the JSON and delete it, paste it. That's it. And next tags. So let's review it and give some name. So let's name is like VPC 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 logs, VPC CloudWatch flow logs. All right, or we can give some underscore. Okay, so let's create the policy. Okay, so now policy has been created, right? But here we need the IAM role. All right, so note the policy. So let's click on the roles. So let's create a role. So let's create a role. So within the role, so if you go to the official documentation within the role, what they said, if you scroll down here, so what they said, we need to just choose to create a role. We need to select the trusted entity type. So within the role, we have to select the custom trust policy. Right. So we have to select this, right, custom trust policy, and within the principal, we have to mention this. So let's copy this, and we here right now principal is empty. So we will remove this and we will overwrite it. And okay, so our trust policy, like we are creating a role. So let's click on the next. Okay, now we have to attach the permission. So permission means which policy. So we already created a policy, so we can attach this permission, or we can create a policy like even we already created a policy, so that we can directly select, or we can create a policy after that. If we have not created the policy earlier, so we can create the policy from here as well. So let's click on it and click next. Now we can give it a VPC CloudWatch flow logs IAM role. Okay, so click create role. So our role has been created. And if we go here and if we refresh it, and if we scroll down, so we could see our role VPC CloudWatch flow logs IAM role. Okay, so what we need what type of traffic we want, whether we want only accept reject, during duration, where we need to send, right? And based upon that, we need to give the either the S3 bucket ARN or the CloudWatch log group, and the format, in which format you want, because like there should be some format of the logs, like first date, then source, like who is trying to access my EC2 instance, then destination, then how many packets are coming, but whether it's accepted or whether it is rejected, right? So we can use either the AWS default format, or either you can use the custom format, right? You can use either the custom format. So let's use the default AWS format. Within the AWS default format, we can see here as like this account ID. So I could see my this account ID. So this one account ID like 68161 ending is 7466, interface ID and source address, destination address, source port, destination ports, protocol, packets, bytes, start time, end time, action, and log status, right? Okay, so let's create the flow logs. So our flow logs has been created, and we created on the VPC level. So if you click on the VPC, so you could see our flow logs has been created. All right. So there is a one more thing I want to tell you. Uh, there is a limitation. Once the flow logs can be created, you cannot change its configuration. All right. So configuration means now I could not see like any option. There is no edit option. Because let's suppose if I want to change the format, because I selected the AWS format. Now I want custom format. Now I cannot change that. What I can do is I can delete this, or I can create a new flow logs. But so this is a limitation, we cannot modify. So once it's created, it's created. We cannot modify. Okay. So now if you go to the CloudWatch, and if you click on it, we could not see anything here because within our VPC we have the subnet, all right, and within the subnet we don't have anything, all right. So what logs will come here? No logs will come here, right? So let's create an EC2 within our new subnet which we created. So let's click on the EC2, and there is a no instance running. So let's launch an instance, launch instance, and my EC2 instance, and we are using the major Linux free tier, which is fine, and proceed without the key pair. And within the network I can click on edit because we are going to use our VPC, my VPC, and our subnet, my subnet. We don't need the public IP, so it should be default. And so yeah, that's it. So let's launch the instance. Now our instance has been launched. All right. So now our instance has been launched. So whatever the activity is happening on this instance, because I have enabled the flow logs. So I have enabled the flow logs on the VPC level, right? So if I enable the flow logs on the VPC level, so I should able to see on the subnet level as well. I should able to see on the network interface level as well, right? So I only enable the logs on the VPC level, my VPC and flow logs, right? So, like I created the logs only in the VPC level. So let's see whether does this same logs is like visible under the subnet or not. So let's click on the subnet and click on the my subnet and click on the flow logs. So we could see I have not created the flow logs under the subnet, but I am able to see here. If I select something else, there is no flow logs because I created the like flow logs on this VPC level, like which under which this subnet exists, right? But because subnet is the part of the VPC, so that's because I created on the VPC level. That's why I'm able to see under the subnet as well. Now, if you go to the EC2, because within the subnet EC2 as well, so within the EC2 as well, I should able to see that because there are three options on the VPC subnet or network interface. So I like we have enabled the logs on the like on the very high level. So automatically these two should be covered. So let's see. So click on the my instance, click on the networking because it's on the network interface. So there is a network interface. So this is the network interface. Click on the network interface, select our network interface. So you could see flow logs. So if you click on the flow logs, I could see my flow logs are there. I have not created the flow logs on the network interface level, but because I created on the VPC level, so that's I am able to see here. All right. If you want to create on the network interface level only, not on the VPC, not on this subnet, you can create. You can just create an EC2, click on, come on the network interface, create a flow log. That's it. So only the particular EC2 instance log will be reached there. All right. Let's suppose you want to like diagnose only particular EC2 instance, like what is happening. So you can create a particular like flow logs for the particular EC2 instance. All right. So now let's go to the CloudWatch logs. So let's refresh it. Yeah, now you could see I have the log stream. So let's click on it, right? And if you expand it, I could see like date, time, and like this is the version. This is the version 2 because the format is like this one. This is my account ID ending with 7466, ending with 7466. This is the like a network interface, like from which it is coming. So this is the EC2 network interface. So this is the EC2 network interface. So if I click on it and if I go to the monitoring, so this is the EC2 network interface. So see, this is the EC2 network interface, and this could be like a source IP, and we are getting the no data. So these are like one of the like there is accept, reject, no data, skipped. So many type of like so, but anyhow, like we have enabled the logs, right? So that's it. That's the end of the video. So you can also try, like if you want to try, you can also try, and but make sure like you should like clear the resources. So let's go to the EC2 dashboard, whatever the instance is running, so we can terminate it so that we should not get charged. So instance has been successfully terminated. What else we have created? What else we have created? Yeah, we have created the CloudWatch log groups. So let's delete the CloudWatch log groups and delete log group. Deleted. Okay. So CloudWatch log group has been deleted. So there is a no log group. There is a no log group. Okay. So we created the VPC as well. So yeah, if you want to delete the VPC, it's up to you. So because we have the flow logs enabled on the VPC level, right? And it's not free. And so that's why we can delete the VPC as well. Because if let's suppose we are doing some testing by creating some EC2 stars, but we don't need the VPC logs. So unnecessary every time it is going to send the logs, and unnecessary we are going to charge. So delete the VPC. So delete. So deleting VPC, and so subnet will automatically get deleted. So that's it. So I will provide these links so that you can if you want to try, so that you can get these policies uh, from these links. Okay. So yeah, thank you.